My name is David Solomon. Welcome to Stone Farms. So I worked for 4 or 5 years with La Milpa Organica under Barry Logan. I had the privilege there of learning a lot of the basics the first couple of years as an apprentice, eventually coming to some understandings about how vegetables grow, how the seasons affect the vegetables, and 5 years later I had the opportunity to be given a job by Stone Farms to manage and produce vegetables to create a loop with the restaurants that Stone has, and supply a lot of the salad greens and spinaches and tomatoes and summer crops that Stone uses on a daily basis in the restaurant. As far as seeds go, if this is the first time starting a home garden, it might be wise to start with things that are simple like cilantro, radishes. The reason they're simple is because they grow fast and they require low maintenance. You want to sow your seeds. Every seed packet comes with instructions what depth the seed should be, how often it should be watered. The important thing with germination is always water every day. Make sure things are moist all the time. A lot of times people make that mistake that they let it go 3 days, they don't water it. In the beginning, when I was learning how to farm, I made the big mistake of letting things over dry, especially in the germination phase. If you don't keep things moist, people have the tendency to say, oh, it's not going to germinate, I must have done something wrong. And when that happens, you kind of give up and you think that I don't have a green thumb or I'm unsuccessful, and you give up too early. And I did that a couple times. And you'll find that if you stay on it and you did all the things correctly, that things will germinate, and with time you'll see things start to grow. And as soon as things start to sprout, it's important to give it attention. That's where you start making sure there's no weeds. You start pulling all the weeds that come around. Learn to identify as it comes up so that you don't pull out the wrong vegetable or weed. So let me go ahead and give you an idea. Let's say this is your earth right here that you just tilled in. Have any weeds left over, you want to pull them out. When I say tilled in, it's really important that you can put your hand in like that. It's really important that your soil is fluffy. That allows for earthworms to come into your soil. It allows for good water drainage. It allows for root penetration. For the plant to really be happy. So what you want to do is you want to have your bed nice and level. And depends how many rows and how much space you have. But generally what you want to do is you want to make your nice little line right here. You don't want to plant too many radishes if you plant radishes, because they do come up relatively quick and you don't want any of them to go to waste. And if they're in the ground too long, they start to swell up and get sort of prickly and not as tasty. And you don't want to be too heavy on the seeding, but you don't want to be too light, so that then if there's poor germination, then nothing germinates, and then you'll lose your interest in farming altogether if you have poor germination, because you'll feel unsuccessful. So if it's your first time, maybe you want to seed a little heavier than usual. But the way I like to describe it is a beaded line. Imagine like beads on a necklace, and you spread them out nice, like a nice beaded line. So right there you can see nice 3 little rows of seeds. Make sure you don't have any little gaps. And then you come back around, you can just gently cover the seeds. You don't want to cover them too much. A lot of times people make that mistake to cover them too much, and then they won't germinate because they're too deep in the ground. So it's the gentle cover. Just make sure that just when you see them barely get covered, that's it. So for watering, there's a golden rule of thumb, you could say, and that's use your finger. That's the best way to figure out if it's too dry or if it's too wet. You never want it to be too wet, because that just leaves you prone to diseases. A lot of funguses like bottom rot can occur with lettuces, arugula, stuff that's cilantro. If it's too wet, too much wetness, not good.
too much dryness, not good. So you kind of have to find that intermediary. And the rule that I learned is you stick your finger in there, and if you feel moisture all the way from the tip of your finger all the way to the top, then you're fine on water. The way I was taught to water, you kind of want to imitate rain. That's the best way to, and the best way to do that is you let it go up, let it come down. And that way you're not spraying down on it, you know. Lots of people, they want to like make sure it gets a lot of water, but you want to be gentle with it. You want to let the water kind of spread out evenly. So what we have here is cilantro, another really easy crop to grow. Germinates in about 4 or 5 days. It takes about 28 to 30 days before you can start cutting it, use it in your salsas or your cooking. The best way to weed things is even cilantro, even though you're cutting it for the greens, even then it's important to thin it a little bit if it's heavily seeded. Thinning and weeding are both kind of go together. When you're weeding, you're also thinning. Like right here, you see that they're kind of like all put together, so you want to leave the space so that things have space to breathe. Just like human beings, like I said, humans also need their space to breathe and to relax, and plants also demand that. So for me, like cilantro, the golden rule is like a finger spacing, you know. It can be tight, but not too tight. So 3.5 weeks later, your radishes should look about like this. You can see the spacing right here. Pretty much the spacing, like I said, the spacing you give it is the spacing you'll get. You know, you need it. Nice texture. Right now is a great time to grow radishes. Springtime. They grow really fast. They retain a great flavor. And it's really easy to grow. What we're looking at here is last week's processing of compost from Stone Restaurant, Stone Bistro. They send us every week about, I would say about 150 pounds worth of compost. That includes leftover tomato scraps, eggshells, broccoli, you name it, they send it over. So this is a good time to go see how far along after a week of sitting here. What we do is we layer it in fine layers, and we layer it with straw. If you have access to straw, you layer it with straw. That just helps the decomposition process go by a little faster. And at the end, we give it a cap of either mushroom compost, whatever's available to you. So as we dig down here, we're getting to the yummy stuff. But what I'm seeing here is like you could see that in pretty fast time, with the right kind of composting, you can get gold. This is like gold. You put it back in your earth. It's all the minerals and nutrients that the fruits and vegetables just extracted from the soil. You're putting it right back in. You know, really there is no better nutrients to be using in your soil than scraps from your own garden. Anything that you use, just try to avoid using oils and stuff that's been cooked, or meats. Those things kind of tend to sometimes create an anaerobic situation where the compost isn't being productful, and instead it doesn't allow the things to breathe, and it decomposes and can bring in diseases. What I would do is I would make a nice little pit in my backyard in a little corner, like as deep as I can go, and every week I would empty out all my scraps, my tomatoes, my onions, anything left over, put it at the bottom of the pit, cover it with a little bit of straw or even a little bit of earth, just so that you don't see it anymore. It covers the smell, and you keep layering it every week, and you'll see that even though it rises week after week, that eventually it'll just sink down all over again. It'll just keep sinking down, and it'll keep sinking down, and when you get to the point where that thing is filled to the brim, you just cover it up, let it sit for a while, and you have a golden little pocket of golden soil there sitting there for you when you want to use it, and you start another hole in a corner of the farm of your backyard. So if you keep doing that, little parts of your yard, all the little corners, then eventually if you want to plant fruit trees on the outskirts of your property, then you just plant them right on those little spots where you did the compost, and it's like those roots are just going to go like gold into that. That's one way of using it. But if one day you want to use the compost in your garden, you can start, scooping it out of the hole and start using it where you need it. But that's one way of processing. Like that's if you're using a lot of compost, if you have a big family. But if you have small amounts, just keeping it in a little bucket, aerating it from time to time, slowly that thing's gonna decompose into earth right away, and you can use it directly around your trees, your little shrubs, or your vegetable garden. Till it in. For you making gold, this is better than gold because it's food. You can't eat gold.